Hey, I realised I bumbled on a little bit before we were introducing the video, so I thought I'd record this afterwards. This video is about Elite, which I recreated in TypeScript and have just kind of polished off after a year or two of not doing much on it. So I thought I'd show it off here. Anyway, on with the video. Hey, I just wanted to take a quick detour from the Virtual Console and because essentially I finished off something I started ages ago and I got it about 95% and I didn't quite finish it off, but I revisited it and finished it, and that's a TypeScript and WebGL version of Elite, which we can look at online. So if you find my website, there's a link to it. Hopefully a familiar loading screen to people, slight twist. You'd have waited for that to load on disk or tape for quite a while, but if we go into the game, again, probably quite familiar, particularly if you played the BBC version, although we didn't have solid graphics, of course. I did do this with solid graphics, but we can get going. I've made some concessions to sort of modern play. It uses a mouse, and when you start a game you can configure the kit you want. So I'm going to give myself, actually cancel that, I'm going to give myself a beam laser on the front and a beam laser on the rear. I've got a docking computer, fine, I won't do anything else, I'm just going to do a quick demo. A docking computer is there by default. You can modify your cache and things. And if we start the game, you've got all the sort of original Elite screens going on. So hopefully it's somewhat familiar. Probably very familiar if you're my age. Let's set ourselves up to go somewhere. Similar keys to the BBC, so A, S, X, the roll keys, the arrow keys do the cursor on here. So I've tried to keep it almost the same. I'm not actually buy anything, but we could go and buy a few things. You can buy things, you hold shift, you can buy 10 things. It just so happens with a mouse. So I've made a few concessions to modern tech. We can launch. Hurrah, we're launched. Planets are solid. I didn't try and do them as wireframe, but it's kind of this amalgam of modern and old. And if we look at the rear view, there's a ship. The lighting is accurate, as in based on where the star is. Things are flat, but I kept most of the models flat. I've got a little bit of Z-index clash going on in a couple of places, which I might get around to sorting. Compass works, but that's just hyperspace to begin with. The hyperspace goes really quickly, and you've got a sort of psychedelic hyperspace, and then we can start to head in towards the planet like you would normally. I can't remember how I did it. Oh, I can't jump because there's somebody here. Let's have a bit of combat. So the flight model is very close to the original game, very close. Which is why I've not sort of made it like a modern game. It's extremely close. Sent the missile off. There's a missile going off. That'll probably hit and destroy it. No, it's missed it. Oh dear. Okay, it'll probably loop back and get it. But anyway, no worries. That missile will now just meander off into the distance. I'm still not ready to jump because there's another ship here. There's another ship there. But you get the idea. We can. Go. Missile. The star's a bit more exciting than perhaps the original game. But it's basically it's pretty close to the original game. Oh, that's a worm or an escape capsule. A little worm's been launched by the Anaconda. Not that I remember the ship names, but I do remember the ship names. So that's the sort of game. It plays like the original game. You can shoot out the back as well, and the sides, and I've got a bit of that's some debris. I thought it was a starfield corruption, but it's a bit of debris. So that's Elite. It was really fun to work on, and I'll quickly show the source code, just in case people are interested. And below the video in the links, I'll put the link to where this is hosted online and to the source, so you can go and tinker. I'm under attack now by the worm. I'll just refresh back to the start, else that'll go on. So the source, it's written in TypeScript. I think I started writing it, I can't remember, maybe I did it 2-3 years ago. I'd done Wolfenstein and other things before, so the 3D stuff wasn't completely new to me. The main challenge, to be honest, was kind of getting things feeling like the original game. So the original game, there's a fantastic website. I'll load it up in here since I'm already in here. It's .com. There's a fantastic website by a chap called Mark Moxon who basically decompiled all the source code, has annotated all the source code. He's written like long articles on how the systems work. You know, it's fantastic. It's amazing. It's an amazing piece of sort of software archaeology. You can spend hours having fun reading this. So this was a great reference as to how things worked in the original game. But that only takes you so far because the original game is just based around the 6502 CPU and, you know, the speed of a 6502. There's no sense of frames a second or, you know, things like that. So the real challenge was getting the feel right. And what I actually ended up doing was I didn't try and do anything crazily technical. I thought about sort of doing some weird 6502 stuff and timing stuff. But in the end, I just decided that actually simple's best. And I timed things like the acceleration curves in the original game and the rotation speeds. You know, and I did that with different numbers of objects on the screen, and because it slows down a lot in the original game when you get different objects on the screen, just to get a sense as to where it was. And yeah, and it landed. You know, eventually I managed to tweak it to the point that it was as it should be. And the nicest thing that I heard in some time was I shared this with Mark Moxon on Twitter or Mastodon or something. Back when I was on social media a bit more, and his feedback was, "You've managed to capture the feel of the original game," and I was like, that was like music to my ears because it's really what I was going for. So that was the main challenge, to be honest. Obviously, it's quite a basic game by modern standards. They've got all the procedural generation. This would have been a nightmare without his website, but because his website's there, he's documented how these things work, like how to calculate unit prices based on the sectors, how this is exactly the same. So this is the way the original game did its procedural generation, and I've used data views and Uint 16s and Uint 8s to kind of replicate all that code. So the text generation for things, system names, this is all based on the original game. And it would have been an absolute nightmare without his website, but he documented all that. So, you know, thank you so much if you see this video. Really helped me revisit my youth. I've got some basic OpenGL stuff. I guess one of the things that was interesting is, you know, the original game. Where are we? Right? Yeah, we're at the loading screen. Great. You know, it's got lots of text and lots of straight lines and boxes and things. And I wrote this in WebGL. So I wrote a basic kind of primitive library, which you can use to draw circles and things. If you look at and it basically translates that to a vertex model, and it translates that down to a bunch of arrays you can send to a GPU. So if you look at things like the renderer, where's the renderer? Is it scenes? I did briefly refresh myself this morning. Here we go, renderer. This is under the renderer. If you look at something like the dashboard, and that's built up like you have a drawing library, but it's done with rect and circle, etc., etc. And it just so happens that it gets translated into WebGL, into vertex buffers, and with color backed vertices. So that made it really easy for me to replicate the original game. For the fonts, I just grabbed the BBC font, which you can find all over the place in sort of retro font stores. So it uses the original font. Pre-game, there's just some work to do around the loadout. But game loops, so the renderer is, it's just a WebGL renderer, really, for the most part. The ship models are in static ships. Yeah, so there's all the ship models. A bunch of shaders that I have. One thing I didn't show, which is quite cool actually, is if I just launch a game, if you use the square bracket keys, you can cycle through different effects, sort of old school monitor effects, which is quite fun. This is how I remember playing it. I had a green screen monitor in my bedroom as a kid, a little tiny little green thing, or a black and white monitor, which I actually haven't replicated here. Interestingly, I never thought to. But the crazy CRT curve. I mean, it wasn't that extreme, but it was pretty curved. It was pretty curved. Fortunately, I didn't have something that was that bad. But that just uses a bunch of post-processing shaders to apply effects to the screen. There's a whole bunch of different shaders for the different things. You can go look at them. Like the CRT thing, there it is, Amber, and they're the post-processors. Planet Society Special, ships, fragment and vertex shaders, which are pretty basic really. They just apply basic specular diffusion lighting based on the position of the sun. Audio I captured from the original game. So I played Elite on my PC and on my Mac, which you can play really handily if you want to go and look at it. You can go and play it in bbcmicro.co.uk. So I played it locally, and I can't remember what tool I used, but I basically just captured the audio and converted it to MP3 files, the little sound effects, and play those back through the browser audio interface. Then the game loop, it's just this is what manipulates everything kind of in the background, and this is all as closely as I could, not entirely, because it's not always possible, because this is running at a rate and the original game wasn't, but as close as I could, I modelled this on the original game. So I tried to model this on the original game as closely as I could. And you can, and there's actually, it turns out, which I'm not sure I ever really noticed in the original game when I was playing it as a kid, but I was a kid. The different, some of the different ships have slightly different tactics, which is quite interesting. In terms of how they respond to you, and I guess the world always felt very alive in the original game, particularly for the time, and I guess that's partly why. And I guess it's one of those things that kind of flies a little bit subconsciously, but it's just different enough that you get a feel that people are behaving in different ways. So that was quite interesting. And again, I pulled how all that works from Mark's site. Thank you again. Controls. I buy my mouse, buy my keys. I mean, that's it really. If anybody's got any questions or is interested in me talking about it more, please drop a comment, and I will do my best to respond. Just a quick detour really, because I polished it up and finished it. One other weird thing actually before I go, the market prices was a bit of a pain. So the prices of goods in the game. The price of goods in the game, so this screen, they are algorithmically generated, but it's based on 8-bit arithmetic logic, so carry flags and rolling round at 255. You got 0 to 255, and it would roll round. So that was a little bit awkward, and you can, if you want to look at that, you can see that in market items, and you can see me doing some shifts and things. To get to sort of simulate the simulate the 8-bit arithmetic logic. I don't know if that's what I had before, or why I've just left that there. I can't remember. That might be. I think that's before me doing my little shifts on it. Actually, that's my my pre-shift approach before I realised that there was a problem. What a game! What a game! Anyway, yes. Hope that's interesting. Thanks for watching. If you want any questions, drop me a message. There's probably still a few bugs in which I no doubt I'll return to and fix, because it's just super interesting, and it's got such a special place in my memory. I can't even tell you how many games I completed. I got to Elite, I think, 2 or 3 times. So I got to Deadly many times from new games. Elite is eluding me now, but I'm pretty sure I got there more than once. I sunk hours into this game. Hope that's interesting. A blast from the past. If you're of my age and you're based in the UK, you'll absolutely recognise that game. Wonderful stuff. And full credit, I've not credited obviously original authors Ian Bell and David Braben. I mean, amazing. What an achievement to squeeze this into what was about 20k RAM after the screen memory had gone. I mean, it's beyond belief. And that alone makes the source code worth visiting through Mark's site just to see the crazy tricks they pulled. It's beyond belief. Like it's mind blowing. I think it's really funny when you hear, this is going to be a bit of a rant, so when you hear people today talking about, oh, we can't write our own game engines, you know, we need to use Unreal and all that. It's like, oh my goodness, like, really? Let's take you back 30 years or so and have some fun. Yeah, really funny. You know, these two guys at university cranked out this 3D engine, procedural world combat in 20k RAM. Yeah. Now that's a challenge. Yeah, amazing. Geniuses, amazing. Yeah, hope you enjoyed that. Drop a comment if you have any questions and I'll do my best to answer. Thanks.